Johnny Wilson was a very physical wide receiver in college. Now, when you look at his stats, because he went to Arizona State for 3 seasons, oh, I'm sorry, 2 seasons, and then he transferred to Florida State. So he was at Arizona State in 2020 and 2021. Then he transferred to Florida State in 2022 and finished out his final season there in 2023. And when you look at Johnny Wilson's college stats, they don't jump off the page. They don't necessarily jump off the page, but what jumps off the page is his athletic profile. He was drafted in the 6th round, 185th overall. And honestly, man, when you see him being 6'6", 228 pounds, the way he's been settling into training camp, because remember, it started off a little shaky for him. It started off a little shaky for him in OTAs and mandatory minicamp. It was a little shaky for him, but he started to settle in, and you can tell his confidence is rising. As a matter of fact, Devontae Smith spoke highly of him. Devontae Smith had a press conference, and Devontae, he's going to always give you exactly what you need to hear, not what you want to hear per se. And Devontae is becoming that veteran that a lot of people respect in the building. But he spoke about Johnny Wilson, and he mentioned how Johnny, he's learning really quickly. He's a big guy. He has a huge catch radius. He's young, but he's learning fast. That's exactly what Devontae Smith said about Johnny Wilson. He's a big guy, has a huge catch radius, and he's learning fast. So that's what you want to hear from Johnny. That's what you want to hear about Johnny Wilson, right? That's what you want to hear. And I got to tell you, Johnny Wilson is making a case for himself at that wide receiver spot. Now, obviously, your number one and number 2 are AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, respectively, and Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell has been competing for that wide receiver 3 spot. Anaya Smith has been competing for it. John Ross has been competing for it. Joseph Ngata has been competing for it, right? Austin Watkins, guys like that, right? But quite frankly, the people we're paying attention to really are Paris Campbell, John Ross, Britton Covey as well. Can't forget Britton Covey, who's going to make the team because he's a really, really reliable special teamer. But Britton Covey, Paris Campbell, John Ross, Anaya Smith, Johnny Wilson, they're all competing to make this roster at wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, things like that, right? And Johnny Wilson, his physical profile isn't really prototypical for the slot receiver spot, right? Like I said, 6'6", 228. Your slot guy, you kind of want him to be real shifty, real quick. You feel what I'm saying? So John Ross, again, he's not your prototypical slot guy. But if he continues to maximize his opportunities, especially now that Paris Campbell is dealing with some sort of injury, I have to look into what it is. But Paris Campbell is dealing with the injury, and he wasn't practicing today. So Johnny Wilson, John Ross, Britton Covey, they've been getting more reps. And Johnny Wilson he's actually been getting some reps, with the first team here and there. And I think the trust is starting to grow between him and Jalen Hurts. And Johnny Wilson has made some. He's been having some flash plays in training camp. He's been high pointing the ball very well. And although Paris Campbell is the front runner, and John Ross and Britton Covey are on his heels, I think Johnny Wilson is making a pleasant case for himself. And on top of that, because of his size, he's going to be very useful in the run game as well. So I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be surprised if the Philadelphia Eagles, especially if he continues on this trajectory as a wide receiver, I wouldn't be surprised if they used him in various packages in the run game, various packages in the red zone. I like that kid, man. I like that kid. And being 6'6", 228, and on top of that, he was measured to have the longest recorded wingspan for a wide receiver at the NFL Combine with 84.5 inches. There's never been a receiver with that physical profile that's been recorded, right? Again, with that wingspan, the longest recorded wingspan at 84.5 inches. That's longer than Megatron. Pause. So although he's still a bit of a project, still needs some refinement. Obviously, experience is the best teacher. We'll see where he goes here, but I like what I've been hearing from Johnny Wilson. I like what I've been seeing from Johnny Wilson.